What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Dubstar, and we're jumping ahead nearly 2 decades in time to the album 1, 2018. Thank you again to Phil for providing their catalog, as well as to Mark and others who've commented along the way. And the first track on the album is Love Comes Late. So it speaks to chronology and sequence, and there is a suggestion that love has arrived near the end of this timeline, though I suppose the end could just be the present, so it is ongoing. But I think there's also an implication that it may have or could have come earlier in the chronology, and thus it was tardy, let's say. But of course, even if that's a valid perspective, that's only part of whatever story is happening here, meaning we don't get the reason love came late, we don't get an indication of whether it will make a difference, of whether there is mutual love, or if, love arrived when one person was already turning away. It feels like there could be a lot of variables and variations here. Let's see what I can pick up on a first listen. This is Dubstar. The track is Love Comes Late, and it's from their 2018 album 1.
On the wall inside the chamber of your heart,
That's clever.
I can feel it move beneath the fabric. Hear it rumble underneath the static. Love comes late. Love comes late. Hold me close before you leave. Leave your perfume on my skin so I can breathe. Hide a key beside the gate when you go, and pray I'll find the strength to wait, 'cause you know love comes late. Love comes late. Love comes late. I can hear them talking outside with their busy lives, but I don't feel the need to move. The seed you left so far inside is out of sight. I only see it in my tears when I cry at night. 'Cause love comes late. Love comes late. Love comes late.
was a really long extension right near the end there. And definitely some layered vocals from Sarah along the way, which I enjoy. And the song had a bit of a dreamy quality. I mean, it still had a groove to it, and the bass really was a bit dynamic at the bottom of the track. And I like how that was balanced with these bright melodic touches at the top of the tune. And obviously, the chorus added a little energy or force to the sonics relative to the verses. But yeah, still, all that being said, a bit of a dreamy, like up in your head sort of sonic atmosphere. And yeah, like I'm trying to figure some of the lines I heard, but my best guess is that the other person is leaving and she's talking about, crying like tears at night by herself, I'm guessing. But it seems like maybe she wasn't articulating love or affection until he was about to leave in the present. Maybe I'm getting that wrong. And there was that line in the beginning which I enjoy, the like, writing his name on the wall, or was it he writing her name? I think she was writing his name. Oh, and I say he, but she said perfume, and I was like, oh, so like, again, the narrator could be, any sex or gender, but it's articulated by a female voice, and it was like, oh, so is this like a woman who's into a woman? I wasn't sure about that, but the idea of like, I need to breathe your perfume, or I need to smell your perfume so I can breathe, the idea of like knowing someone's scent, if you will, or knowing like a fragrance that they wore, and so it reminds you of them, and everything comes flooding back the way that we make like associations with one scent, with one sense, with all the other, what's the right word, like connotations, but all the other things that go into that person can be triggered by a single sensory piece of data. But yeah, so okay, woman or man, I'll say woman. It was like she was gonna write her name on the inside of her heart, like the chamber of her heart, which again, like a chamber, an enclosed room. But of course, our hearts do actually have chambers in like a biological organ sense. So that was a clever line. But yeah, like again, this is a guess because I didn't catch all the lines, and the lines I did catch, I'm not quite sure how to read a couple of them, but it sounds like there is a disconnect. The other person is leaving, she is taking off, but the narrator seems sad about it, and I wonder whether it's because before she wasn't fully committed, she wasn't showing love, and now that it's come, it's too late. It's, the opportunity, the connection is already frayed or separated. But yes, I did enjoy that line about the perfume, and it reminded me, there's a show I'm very fond of, Notame Cantabile, when one of the characters is going to be away for a while, and then the main character, Notame, she's missing him, and she's trying to deal with it, and someone's asking her about it, like, oh, how are you doing with, Chiaki so far away? And without even answering, she rushes into another room, grabs one of his dress shirts, and like inhales and kind of, almost like she's getting a fix, like a shot of his scent, which will do its best to like tide her over until he comes back. So it feels like there was a bit of that there with, needing to smell the perfume so that she can breathe, which, breathe emotionally, I think. So yeah, maybe I'm misreading that, maybe it's flipped around, maybe it's even more complicated than that, but that's my best stab on a first listen. And yeah, I enjoy the sonics. It certainly sounds different than some of the tracks on the end of Make It Better, but at the same time, I feel like it's, you wouldn't mistake this for someone else. Having heard now a couple other albums, I feel like this is very much their style, that, dreamy, like, melodic synth pop, but with surprisingly heavy or dark lyrics, so I feel like this is kind of, in their territory. Now, again, this is 17 years after the previous album, so certainly a long gap in between, and I am curious, the story behind their coming back together. I think this was explained to me already. In the moment, I'm forgetting some of the details, but I think maybe they had done a couple things together between the two albums, but this was, again, the first time that they, like, properly recorded an album for nearly 20 years, which is always an interesting thing, right? Like, there's some other synth pop groups I'm aware of that, had these long gaps in between. So, yeah, I wonder about the story behind the music, if you will. In any case, let me know what you think of the tune, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace.